Hello boys, welcome back to another session of online video tutorials, and this session is meant for class 11th biology students, and this is meant for 28th June 2021. And in this session we are going to deal with chapter number 2, biological classification. It talks about taxonomy and classification. Taxonomy, the way we arrange plants and animals based on similarities and dissimilarities. And after doing this, we classify the animals. That is, both the animals and the plants are placed in their respective groups. So we have got n number of varieties of plants and animals. In order to avoid confusion, we need to have a systematic classification, and that is exactly taxonomy. So we study the diversity of life by naming and grouping organisms. So taxonomy is a branch of biology that deals with classification and naming of organisms. Now, biological classification of plants and animals was first proposed by Aristotle 350 BC, and the basis of simple morphological characters. Morphology means study of external characters. So morphological characters refers to shape of the organism, size of the organism, color or colors of the organism, and whatever we could see externally, that's morphology. Okay, and biological classification is the scientific procedure of arranging organisms into groups on the basis of their similarities and dissimilarities and placing the group in the taxonomical hierarchy of categories. And as we said, Aristotle, we must be thankful to him, he divided animals into two categories, that is anema, that means animals with red blood, and anema, animals without red blood. Linnaeus gave two kingdom system of classification comprising kingdom Plantae and Animalia. So Linnaeus talked about only two, plants and animals. What about others? There are many, like fungi. So Haeckel introduced three kingdom system with the kingdom Plantae, Protista and Animalia. But yet this doesn't satisfy, because there are other animals like bacteria, viruses. So Copeland gave four kingdom system having kingdoms Monera, Protista, Plantae, Animalia. But still something is missing. So we are thankful to Dr. R.H. Whittaker in 1969 divided all the organisms into five kingdoms, namely Monera, Protista, Plantae, fungi and Animalia. So Carl Linnaeus, as we said just now, reclassified all living organisms into two kingdoms. So it is a two kingdom classification. Since he has started, this great gentleman, we say, is father of taxonomy. So it is two kingdom classification, Plantae and Animalia. But most recent one is this Robert Whittaker. He proposed five kingdom classification, that is Monera, Protista, fungi, Plantae and Animalia. As you are seeing here in this, you can see the Monera here, all the photosynthetic one, bacteria, Monera, then Protista, what we call protozoans, eukaryotic ones, unicellular animals. Then this is divided or evolved into fungi, animals and Plantae. So the most accepted version at present is the five kingdom classification. And the main criteria of the five kingdom classification are cell structure. What is the basis on which Robert Whittaker classified all the animals and plants into five groups? The first point is cell structure, then body organization, mode of nutrition, and then reproduction, and most important is phylogenetic relationships, that is evolutionary development and diversification of species. So we always compare, as the animals evolve, we compare the animals, that if there is an advanced character, from where it has come, if there is an ancestral character, from where it is displaying that. So this is phylogenetic relationship. So this is how the biological classification of animals and plants are taken. To start with, basically kingdom Monera, and then kingdom Protista, then kingdom Fungi, and kingdom Plantae, and kingdom Animalia. And of course, not to forget, there are certain other organisms that are left out. They are placed separately. They are viruses, viroids, I hope you heard the word, smaller than viruses, viroids, and lichens. Lichens, of course, is the combination ones, symbiotic ones, lichens. Algae plus fungi is lichen. So this is how we sometimes, so people consider this viruses, viroids, lichens as another group. So it is called six kingdom classification. But we are not convinced to put these under one kingdom. Viruses, viroids, and lichens, they are studied separately. So most acceptable form as on today is five kingdom classification. Now, what are the characters? We said cell type. So Monera, prokaryotic. Pro means primitive. Karyotic, karyon means nucleus. Nucleus is not very prominent. It just appears as though there is some nucleus. So we say nucleoid. Nucleoid, small nucleus, small size nucleus, not very clear, not very specific. So primitive. Whereas in Protista it is eukaryotic. Eu means clear. Nucleus is very clear. Protista. Fungi, of course, we can see it is a multicellular body, nucleus is very clear. Eukaryotic. Plants, of course, animals, our own case, all these are eukaryotic. Cell wall, in case of Monera, like in bacteria, it is non-cellulosic. What is cellulose? It's a type of carbohydrate, right? So it is non-cellulose, not carbohydrate. Instead, it is polysaccharide. Of course, it is a sugar plus amino acid. Whereas in Protista, it is the present in some, the cell wall will be there, may not be there, Protista. Whereas in fungi, it is present, cell wall is present, but no cellulose is present. Certain chemicals are present in the cell wall, like lignin, pectin, all this. Whereas in plant also, most of the portion of the cell wall is cellulose. And there may be some chemicals also along with the cellulose, but in our case, in Animalia, there is no cell wall. Cell wall is not there. Nuclear membrane, in Monera it is absent because the nucleus itself is not very clear. In rest of the four groups, present, prominently present, very prominently present. Body organization, all Monerians are microbes, cellular, and Protista unicellular organisms. Fungi multicellular and with loose tissue, whereas in plants tissue is there, organ system also is there, so as in animals. Mode of nutrition. Mode of nutrition, in case of Monerians, it is autotrophic, and most of the time it is chemosynthetic. With the help of chemicals they undergo photosynthesis, so it is chemophotosynthetic. And heterotrophic, that is, they depend on other organisms, then we say parasitic. They eat dead and decomposed food, then we say saprophytic. So most of the Monerians are parasitic, saprophytic, or chemophotosynthetic. Whereas Protista, autotrophic, photosynthetic, but some of them are heterotrophic. They follow different mode of nutrition. Whereas in fungi, of course, since there is no chloroplast, it is not green, it is non-green one, it has to be either saprophytic or parasitic. Most of the time it is saprophytic. Whereas in plants, lot of chlorophyll. So having chlorophyll, they absorb sunlight, they undergo photosynthesis, so autotrophic, they prepare their own food. So photosynthetic. Whereas in Animalia, we don't have chlorophyll, we don't prepare our own food, we depend always on others, so heterotrophic. And either saprophytic or holozoic, means food can be inserted at a stretch, and in due duration the food in a phased manner can be digested. That is holozoic nutrition. with different steps or processes like ingestion, digestion, okay, absorption, assimilation, and excretion. So this is holozoic way of nutrition. So we classify, rather Robert Whittaker classified all the animals and plants into five kingdoms based on five broad characters: cell type, cell wall, presence or nucleus or absence, body organization, and mode of nutrition. So these are the five basic characters he has considered for classifying the animals. So in the five kingdom classification, bacteria are included in kingdom Monera. So kingdom Monera means it is bacteria. Kingdom Protista includes all single-celled eukaryotes such as chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds, and of course protozoans, amoeba family. Members of kingdom fungi show great diversity in structures and habitat. Most fungi are saprophytic in their mode of nutrition. The plantae include all eukaryotic chlorophyll containing organisms: algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and angiosperms are included in this group. And finally, the heterotrophic eukaryotic multicellular organisms lacking a cell wall. This is important. Look at that. We don't have a cell wall. We have cell membrane. Lacking cell wall are included in the kingdom Animalia. So this is how we classified. Some acellular organisms, there is no particular shape, size. Acellular organisms like viruses and viroids as well as the lichens are not included in the five kingdom system of classification. So however, we are going to study separately. And acellular organisms that are not made up of cells are divided into cells. Cell-free organisms, right? So it's acellular. So further classification is done by naming the subgroups at various levels as given in the following hierarchy. You can remember for the sake of exams, KPC of GS. What is this KPC of GS? K for kingdom, P for phylum, for animals it is phylum, for plants already I told you it is division, then C for class, O for order, F for family, G for genus, and of course S for species. So in the hierarchy, lowest taxon is species, highest taxon is kingdom. Remember that. And kingdom Monera, of course, kingdom Monera is, you can remember it as bacterial family. So two major groups of Monera will be there. They are called Archaebacteria or Archibacteria. This is ancient bacteria. And second one is Eubacteria. Eubacteria is further divided into two types, that is bacteria and cyanobacteria. Some other groups of Monerians are Mycoplasma, Rickettsia, and Actinomycetes. So basically, kingdom Monera means it is bacterial family. The organisms in the group are, what are the characters? Major one, prokaryotic. Nucleus is primitive. Karyon means nucleus. Unicellular, single cell. Most abundant microorganisms and live in extreme habitats. This is how they are dangerous. Okay, and then its mode of nutrition is autotrophic, synthesize their own food, and some of them are heterotrophic, getting food from the environment. And the structure, bacteria with cell wall, mycoplasma without cell wall. There is no cell wall in mycoplasma. So bacteria are grouped under four categories based on their shape. Like you are seeing here, coccus, round shape, spherical shape. Rod shaped is bacillus. Okay, you got this rod shaped bacillus. Comma shaped vibrae, spiral shaped spirillum. So based on the shape, you have got four types of bacteria. And then, as we said, two major groups of Monera are two. We said Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. Archaebacteria, we go for it. And these are group of the most primitive prokaryotes. Archaebacteria are of three major types. They are methanogens, halophiles, thermoacidophiles. So, bacteria that are special since they live in some of the harshest habitats. So halophiles are the bacteria that live in salty areas. See, halophiles. Bacteria that live in hot springs, they are called thermoacidophiles. And bacteria that live and survive in marshy places, that is methanogens, because they release methane. So archaebacteria differ from other bacteria in having different cell wall structure, and this feature is responsible for their survival in extreme conditions. Methanogens are present in the gut of several ruminant animals such as cow and buffalo, and they are responsible for production of, as I said, methane, which is biogas from the dung of these animals. That's why the cow dung and buffalo's dung is smelling, and the smell is methane smell. So methanogens are obligate anaerobes, anaerobic respiration. In biogas fermenters, these bacteria produce methane. So methanobacterium, metanococcus, there's the example. Halophiles, on the other hand, salt-loving bacteria, because they live in sea, salt-loving bacteria, halophiles. They are found to live in environments with very high salt concentration. And thermoacidophiles live in extremely acidic environments where pH will be less than 2, that have extremely high temperatures up to 110 degrees centigrade. They are found in hot sulfur springs, hence they are special. So we go ahead with further.